How can I get an order of protection dismissed?
Dismissed is, we usually, as the respondent, don't have that ability. I shouldn't say, there are some situations or some courts that allow us to file motion to dismiss. But I always tell the respondent when they call us, our options are twofold, basically. Is number one, you either consent to this, which they're not calling me to consent. They could go walk in the courtroom and sign a piece of paper saying, no hearing, I agree with the order of protection, right? That's what a consent is. But their two options are basically consent or have a hearing. And so, if they're calling my office and they're calling us for representation, usually they're not consenting. There are a small percentage of cases where the evidence may be just so overwhelming that we would advise our client in those situations to consent and let's try to mitigate this. We don't want to have a hearing. Maybe there's also a criminal case at play because they've been charged with domestic assault, and we don't want our client testifying. So there are some situations in which we would advise our client to consent, but by and large, if they're calling us and they're hiring us, they're not interested in a consent. They're wanting to fight this, and that's what we do. And so, as far as the question getting it dismissed, we don't have that control. The petitioner does. They are the one who filed the order of protection. Oh. Only they can dismiss this. We have to be ready to walk in there, and I always tell our clients is, you hire us, this court date is on, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be ready to rock and roll. We're going to walk in there ready for a hearing and ready to, cross-examine the petitioner, put on the testimony of our client, the respondent, and we're going to be ready for a hearing. So we don't necessarily control the dismissal. Petitioner does, and that happens from time to time. And I'm allowed to talk with the petitioner, and sometimes I'm able to talk the petitioner into a dismissal. But at the end of the day, the petitioner controls that.
And just quickly, there are a lot of strategies I've just seen him, execute that I would have never thought of. And again, why I don't handle orders of protection. But, you get served and that ex parte is in place. I've seen Steve negotiate where let's keep the ex parte in place for 6 months. If no issue, then would you dismiss? So there's all kinds of different strategies that, Steve, utilizes. That, again, if you don't do this day in and day out, you're not going to know that's even an option.